got my iPad in the other room, so bear with me. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Hiya.
Thank you for being here. So the thematic of today has very much been around how do marketers navigate these stormy waters, I suppose. So I think probably the best place to start, and I'll start with you first, Sarah, if I can, is when everything in the kind of economic kind of environment is very much about cost of living, and your products, most of your products are a luxury to people. It's not something they can always kind of tune into. How has that affected the way that you're thinking about your marketing plans?
I love the idea of pizza being described as a luxury. That's just brilliant, brilliant. We think about it all of the time. I mean, the reality is that the market's contracting, our heaviest consumers, or the heaviest consumers of the category, are shopping less, and therefore it's on our minds all of the time. I guess just three things that we've been thinking about. The first is really distinctiveness and top of mind. It's a share game. It's an absolute share game, which is what I say to my teams all the time. The reality is when we call them Joe and Mark, get to a Saturday, they're knackered, they've got 2 kids, they've been running around, they've been working hard all week. You've got to be top of mind. Right. When they think about what they want, and therefore, whether it be wrestling matches in London, putting Domino's hats on people in Glastonbury, or we've just sent a jetpack into Cheltenham, we've just sent a jetpack into Glastonbury, all of those things are really driving mental availability. You've got to win the game at that point. One thing we're doing, the other thing we're doing is really simplifying our CVP. The reality of the consumer at the moment, everything we see says they don't want to do math. They do not, they haven't got a huge amount of cash, and therefore make it simple. So our new pricing, we had a really successful 8 for a small, 10 for a medium, 12 for a large. Sounds super simple, right? But they were delighted with that. Simple was good for them. And then the final thing I'd say is know them brilliantly. Hyper-personalization. We are investing massively getting those consumers onto our app. When they're on our app, one, the LTV is much higher, but we can understand them, we can serve them stuff that's really important. So be super distinctive, make sure that you're super simple from a CVP perspective, and then hyper-personalize. Understand them better than anybody else. It's a share game.
Brilliant. And could you just unpack CDP for people, because someone presented on customer data platforms earlier.
Okay.
So I want to make sure people understand.
Just our whole customer value proposition. So it's all about what we offer to them, making it super simple.
Lovely. Thank you, Sarah. And Kristof, for you, I guess, probably cosmetics is a slightly more of a luxury project than a pizza on a Friday night.
Depends. No, I think, they always say never, let a good crisis go to waste, and I think this is definitely one of those, because I don't think anybody ever wins by just hunkering down, not spending, and just sitting tight and waiting. I think if you want to come out of a crisis like this cost of living crisis, I think you need to be on the offense, I would say. And for us, that's definitely true at Avon, in the sense that for people who don't know, we're a B2B2C business. So we sell through 5 million representatives to our end customer. And actually, our business is counter-cyclical, which is if there's an economic tougher time, we win. And the reason for that is because more people look for an extra gig, a little side hustle on the side to make a bit more money. So for us, actually, this is the moment to double down and go out there and find people who want to be Avon representatives. Now, we do face one barrier, which is, as probably everybody in your mind was thinking, oh, but Avon, that's paper, catalog, door-to-door selling.
Right.
Which, to some extent, is still true in more developing markets. But actually, if you look now, I can send you, Paul, a little link with a lipstick that I think would work brilliant on you. You could do the virtual try-on technology, see, oh yeah, doesn't look bad, add it to your basket, and you get it delivered tomorrow. So we really need to change that perception of the olden Avon into a modern kind of, relationship selling business.
Great. Well, I think you just did that in that last 30 seconds for what everyone thought Avon might have been in the past. And Nikki, I guess when price is such a kind of focus, people are often trading down or maybe not even buying in a category. So how has that changed your world from an FMCG perspective?
Yeah, and I think FMCG is interesting because it's quite different to the categories of pizza and beauty and makeup. And I think what we've seen is consumers are trading down, and that's okay. Our brands definitely have a role to play there, but what we have to think about differently is how we're messaging. So what messages are we giving to our consumers? Rather than it being about what that product delivers, it's more around what can it save you? Is it time? Is it money? Is it energy? And how we can then play a role in the consumer's household and life.
Lovely, very nice. And we talked earlier when I talked to Michael from Heineken, and we talked about how marketing can either, and this is a deliberate kind of different ends of the spectrum, can either be sometimes talked about as the colouring in department all the way through to the growth engine. And I know in your businesses it's very much the growth engine. So could you talk about maybe how marketing is seen as a core driver of transformation? And I'm going to come to you first, Kristof, because you're in a business that probably got the most dramatic change. You're trying to shift perception and shift the distribution model of where people buy your product.
Absolutely. And that's where I think, as a CMO or as a marketing organization, if you're just the pretty pictures department, you're not part of the transformation. Because I think, as a marketeer, as a CMO, I think there's beyond the pretty pictures, which you need to get as well, but there's two things I think that you need to keep front and center. One is making sure that you put the consumer, always at the core of any discussion, any decision making in the company, because to be frank, you're the one waving the consumers and your customers' flag in the boardroom. The second thing is be your company's growth hacker. And if I just apply that to Avon, when I arrived there a little over a year ago, actually, what was at the on a slide at the core of the business model was the representative, the Avon lady, if you want. Although there's many men now selling Avon as well, but that fundamentally restricts the business to only access customers through that representative, and that's quite limiting because when you look at brand health, our top 6 barriers to the brand are all about access to the brand. So it's a fundamental transformation. So I managed to convince my exec colleagues to put actually the customer at the center. Some of those customers are serviced through representatives. The others can still enjoy high-touch beauty advice in other ways, through direct-to-consumer, through retail, through marketplaces. Because ultimately, if you put the customer at the center, if the customer is on an exploratory mission, they might want to talk to a representative to find out which products are right for them. If they are on a I want to play with product mission, well, they probably want to go into a retail store and try the product there. And, for example, in Turkey, we have over 100 now retail stores, and we're opening them up worldwide. If you're on a mission of, I like this product, I just want it quickly at home without any fuss, well, you order it off a marketplace like Amazon or Trendyol or Choppy or Lazada. So really keeping your customer at the center has actually helped open up new avenues of growth for a 136-year-old business and really transform that business from a very classical direct selling brand to now an omni-channel relationship selling business. And again, that is by putting the customer at the center and having a growth mentality as a CMO. So that's, I think, the most important tip you can do to be part of that transformation agenda.
Very good. Thank you, Kristof. And Nikki, I imagine the vast majority of your product is still bought in store, yet you're going through quite a lot of digital transformation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we need to look at the way of how we marry up digital with online and offline world, let's say. And there's a way of doing it in a beautifully hybrid way, let's say. So Kristof mentioned it there about the virtual try-on one of our brands live, which is home hair colour. On the packs, there's a QR code where you can scan it and then try that colour on in store to see what you would look like with it. Right. So it's the same point around putting the consumer at the heart of what you do. That's one element. But I think the other element for me is more internally focused, of seeing how you've got your marketing team, your sales team, your commercial excellence team all working in harmony with each other, because once you get your ducks in a row internally and the cogs turning, it will emulate externally with the consumer as well.
Great, thank you. And Sarah, kind of linked to the point that Nikki just made, how much work or time do you spend actually trying to win the boardroom over versus kind of actually there being buy-in from the top of, so your business is a franchisee business. How important is marketing-driven transformation to the board conversation?
It's hugely important. I mean, we're very lucky to have a board and a leadership team that's very fluent in brand and marketing. That helps. But I think the journey we've been on with them is to understand why it matters to them. they may not be interested in, why we did that in Glastonbury or why we have this massive lapse-in campaign in CRM.
Right.
What they are interested in is to understand the data that's flowing through our business. So we look at our consumer through the lens of monthly cohorts. We're looking at what our new acquisition is, how many we've stopped from lapsing. We're looking at the quality of those customers, which means that we can then predict 6 months down the line, 12 months, 18 months, exactly what our performance is likely to be, because we can just model it out. And so that conversation my board absolutely wants to have with me. And therefore, taking marketing and consolidating it with data, because we are a data-centric organization, most of our sales go through online, that's what means that you absolutely justify a very, very large place in that boardroom.
Great. And you touched on earlier, I guess, what some people in the room might talk about brand, mental availability, and then the kind of precision marketing, getting that combination right.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about, because I know your market share kind of increased kind of earlier this year, didn't it? You went from kind of 6-7% up to 8 and 8.5%. So would you put that down to the combination and the harmony between those two elements?
Absolutely. So we've now consolidated marketing and digital. So I would look after, as the innovation and the other teams, but I would look after both of those. And we are absolutely in sync. So when we are, doing something very big from a marketing perspective to drive that mental availability, we are converting every single sale through some significantly enhanced product, CRM, and performance teams. We've in-housed a lot of that resource over the last 18 months just to make sure that, it's a share game. Let's make every pound work really, really hard for us. So our working, non-working ratios have increased. And I think mental availability, converting every possible sale through digital is what's meant that our performance has outperformed the market.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And Nikki, what would the key transformation levers be from a digital perspective for your business?
I think what's interesting with digital is it used to be a buzzword, and actually it's not a buzzword now. It's definitely a fully integrated part of the marketing funnel that we use. And I think in terms of those levers, I'd say there's three things. One is that customer service is now the voice of the consumer, and it's really important not to ignore that. The second one, from a digital perspective, is the rise of the influencer, and almost the rise of the micro-influencer, and the importance of authenticity in your marketing communications. And then finally, I would say it's tying it all up to have this seamless approach to marketing, both internally and externally. So wherever your consumer is, they're seeing the same brand at the same touch points.
Great. And Kristof, Nikki mentioned influencers, which obviously that's rather dramatically changed the beauty industry over the last few years. Like, how much does that feature, given your B2B2C model, how much does that feature in your thinking?
Yeah, and in a way, if you think about it, the Avon model, where the Avon lady goes around and recommends products to her friends, is in a way a micro-influencer model. But yeah, for us as well, transforming, because one of the issues with Avon is for the last 10 years, media has only been cut. And as a result, when I say I work for Avon, most people ask, are they still around? Or my mum used to be an Avon lady, or my nan. So there is a lot of work to be done to rebuild the brand. And clearly, a bit of above the line is important at the top of the funnel. But then indeed, it is all coming down to authentic influencers, and then also a full funnel, of course, performance marketing at the bottom of the funnel. But again, creating, because we are a retailer as well as a brand business.
Right.
So actually creating that first-party data ecosystem that then can be leveraged to provide, exceptional, personalized customer experiences is really where we're going.
Great. And each of you's touched to some extent on the importance of kind of collecting data and being able to convert the mental availability, the top of the funnel, into sales. Sarah, how has your marketing operating model changed? You touched on the fact that you're taking certain things in-house that you think you should strategically own, and you're investing in data and technology, etc. Could you maybe just touch on that and how that's changed over the last few years?
Yeah, I guess a couple of things that we've done. We've set ourselves an ambition to be the Netflix of pizza, a disruption, innovation, but hyper-personalization. Ultimately, they're just a personalization engine, and they are brilliant at it. And so we have over-invested in digital capabilities, And that be, as I said, product, data, CRM, performance marketing. We went to online betting, online fast fashion. That's where you find that talent, and we've just brought them in to be able to manage those functions. So that's definitely something we've done. And the other piece that we've done is we have some brilliant agency partners. You know, BCCP still own our CVP with us. They do the big creative ideas, but the stuff that we can do cheaper and easily ourselves, we do. So we've in-housed a lot of the day-to-day just asset creation in an amazing studio. And that just helps us release cash to fuel the digital transformation. So we've really thought hard about how we just get that pound to be much closer to 70% being something that the consumer sees and working really hard for us. That's the journey we've been on.
Do you find that it's also more agile? Is it faster as well as cheaper?
It's really fast. I mean, we can put things into, into the studio or into the CRM team, and we can turn it around in hours. And that's not that you can't do that with you. You need your brilliant strategic partners. You need that, but you also need to have an agility at the bottom end of the funnel to just get stuff out when you need to.
Absolutely. And Nikki, from your perspective, as you think about the marketing operating model and what you do yourselves, what you do with partners, has that changed much recently?
Yeah, we recently in Henkel have set up what we call our commercial excellence division, and that has been quite a game changer in terms of how we structure data within our business. And actually our head of our commercial excellence is here today, which I'm really happy to say. And within that team, we have our category team, our net revenue management team, and our shopper marketing team. And we've become a lot more sophisticated with what we're doing with our data. We've had a wealth of data, almost to the point you get to data paralysis, and you need to know what to do with it. And so actually that team has massively helped us decipher that data and how we turn that into insight and therefore action, whether it be above the line or below the line.
Great. No, I mean, that's a similar theme that we've heard today, that you need the quant data, but you also need the qual data and to bring it together. And not all answers are in a bunch of data that you've got sat in a database. So it's good to hear that talked about again. And Kristof, when you think about the role of technology in marketing, I mean, there's been lots of talk about generative AI, surprise, surprise, and how marketing and IT, as it's often called internally, kind of are weaved together. How does that work in a 130-plus-year-old business?
Yeah. So, well, yes, transformation is the word, and definitely a bit of storm from time to time. But yeah, to your point, I think, I always say, clearly, I need to get along with my boss, but then the CFO is a really important stakeholder because he or she holds the money. But then, for me, the CTO or the CIO, whatever they're called, should be a very close second to the CFO, because it's the only way you're going to be able to create those customer experience. When you map it out, what kind of value and use cases you have, that's the key partner you ultimately need to partner with. And clearly, we talked about virtual try-on technology, virtual diagnostics. How do you build them in, and where? If we want to make it easy for people to still connect to a representative, get that personalized beauty advice. If we think about representatives joining our business, you want to help them to build their business. So we need to educate them, and that's why we always talk about earning and learning. Because again, if they come into the business, they have a bad experience, they're just going to leave. So how do you help them to make that first sale? How do you train them to do so? How do you create that whole ecosystem around that? The gamification, to make sure that they go the extra mile and sell that extra product. So both on the B2B side with those representatives, as well as on the B2C side, where we then also have CRM, precision media, personalization, all of those things. How do you create that whole ecosystem if you don't have an amazing tech partner? I think it's going to be very difficult. So be good friends with them, I would say.
Yeah, great. And Sarah, marketing and IT are two functions, but there's obviously lots of other product functions, like you touched on it as well, Nikki. How is the role of the CMO in being the orchestrator of connecting different teams across sales, IT together? Because it strikes me that marketeers are often the glue between all of the departments.
I think you're right, and I love, ultimately we are the growth engine, and we show up in the boardroom ready to have those conversations, and I think having just incredibly strong partnerships with those other functions is what matters. I spend more time speaking to my CIO than probably anybody else.
Right.
Because actually, if I want to do a partnership with Just Eat, I've got to integrate all my back-end systems. I need him to be there with me. I need him to, if I want to, change my deals and pricing engine, I need him to just work with me on that agenda. And therefore, those relationships, I think, are more important than ever in a digital, data-centric organization. Critical.
Yeah. And Nikki, you touched on it a little bit earlier about the collaboration, the commercial aspect of it. What insights do you have about how to drive that kind of cross-functional collaboration? I think is what it's poshly called, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, aside from having a few drinks at the pub, which is always good for building relationships, I would say it's about understanding each other. What is in it for me? What's in it for them? So if I'm talking, say, our sales director or our sales team, really trying to get myself into the mind of what they need to deliver X, Y, and Z to their customer. And I think having that understanding and appreciation, you can then shape the conversation to meet other people's needs as well as your own and driving your agenda.
Great. Some great messages coming out that I think it's important for everyone to hear about. The amount of time that's spent marketing and connecting with other stakeholders and understanding the use cases. I think often in the service industry, we jump straight to you need a thing, a widget, but there's a lot of consideration that goes into how a strategy is built. So this has been an amazing conversation. I'm going to ask you to do something fairly challenging now, which is with one word to describe how each of you feel about kind of what's in front of you. I'm not sure we're out of stormy waters. Inflation's still hovering at about 8%. And while some other countries have dropped, it doesn't look like that's going to happen here anytime soon. So I'll start with you, Nikki, because you're on it, and we'll go left to right if you don't mind. And you can unpack the one word. You don't just need to say one word.
So I'm feeling inspired because actually, in a time of stormy waters, that's when as marketing you need to step up. It's very easy for marketing to be the first area of a business that gets cut to support the bottom line. But actually, for me, this is when you need to invest. This is when you need to sell what you do and the value it brings to the business.
Nice. Lovely. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm super excited. A bit like you just said there, Nikki. For me, I spoke last year when we were just coming through COVID about looking into a crystal ball. I don't think there's ever been a better time to be a marketeer. There is no playbook that helps you understand how to come out of a global pandemic and how to navigate, what we're in right now. There is no playbook. And therefore, what a bloody exciting time to be a marketeer. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And last but not least, Kristof.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, my word is bullish. I think never waste a good crisis, as I said at the start, because this is the moment when companies can actually leapfrog competition, etc. So I think it's the moment to go for it.
Excellent. Well, you've heard some very positive words there. Whilst there may be a context to challenge, it's never been more exciting to be a CMO, and marketing's never been so critical to actually driving business and growing business. So I'd like you to put your hands together for Nikki, Sarah, and Kristof.